Well, if you want to make sure that you are in control, that your estate goes to whomever you want it to go when you pass, or that you have appointed somebody to act on your behalf in case you can't, in case there's incapacity, that's why you would want to have your own plan. If you want to be in charge of your life, your business, your affairs, where your estate goes, basically, if you want to do everything that you can to control what can be controlled in this uncertain world, then you will have an estate plan, one that works for you, one that you understand. We know a lot of people don't do estate planning. We know a lot of people who do estate planning. Oftentimes what people say to me is, I want to do this because I want to make it as easy as possible for my loved ones when I'm gone. I do not want to leave a mess for them. So they're thinking about their loved ones. They're thinking about how to make things easier for the time comes when, they have passed on and their family is left without them. So either they're going to leave a situation which is pretty easy to handle, or they're going to leave a mess, because the state's plan typically results in it's a mess and it's expensive and it often involves court fights, on and on and on. It's just not a good situation. So that is the default plan, which is the state's plan. So if you don't want to leave a mess, or if you don't want to leave uncertainty, then take some action and don't have your estate plan be the state's default plan. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the state is in any way malevolent or mean or doing anything that doesn't make sense. I mean, the state's default plan is what the state thinks you probably would want. So, for example, let's say that you have no estate planning done and something happens to you. You are in a car accident and you suffer a traumatic brain injury, or perhaps, it's been years and years and, you've lost capacity. You have some form of dementia, Alzheimer's, for example, and you haven't done anything. You haven't put anything in place. Well, the state does have a plan, because if somebody loses the ability to manage their own affairs and they're still alive, there has to be somebody with legal authority to take care of things. I mean, it's just simply required. The state then will say, this person has lost capacity. What's the plan? The plan is the person who's lost capacity becomes a ward of the state. What that means is that they are declared to have virtually no rights, and a guardian is appointed on their behalf. So a guardian is somebody who is appointed by the court to make decisions for the person who's lost capacity. The guardian has to report everything to the court. Financials, personal plan, everything is reported to the court because everything is managed by the court. And what that means is all of the expenses of all this court management and involvement of the guardian, all of those things are paid for by the funds of the person who's incapacitated. If you're that person, it's all paid for by your funds, and you have no control over your finances or your personal health, and you haven't appointed who you want to be in control if you would have thought of it before you lost capacity. So the state has to be involved. The state guides all of that person's affairs. So that's the state's plan if somebody loses capacity. So what's the state's plan, the default plan, if you die without any estate planning that you've prepared? So the state's plan when you die depends on what your situation is. You might say, well, what do I care? I'm gone. Well, if you care about your family and if you care to make things easier for your loved ones, it does make a difference that you put a plan into place. So the state's plan, let me give you an example of what that would look like. Let's say you are a single person and you have 3 kids and you have no estate planning in place. Well, the state's plan for you, it's called the laws of intestacy, is that on your death, your estate will be divided 3 ways, equally among your 3 children. And when I said the state isn't mean in their plans, the state is trying to carry out what they think most people would have wanted, which is the 3 kids. You have 3 kids, they're all going to inherit equally because that's what the state thinks most people would want. And that may be true. However, oftentimes people don't want that equal distribution. Say, for example, that this person is very close to the 2 kids and that 3rd kid has been out of their life for many, many years. They would disinherit them. They don't want them, they haven't seen them, they want them to have nothing to do with inheriting. But if they don't put a will in place that says, I have 3 kids and I want everything to go to these 2 and none to this child, then the result will be that this child who really the person didn't want to inherit will actually inherit 1/3. So the way to make sure your wishes are carried out is by putting them in writing in a will, because if you don't do that, then it will be the default plan for the state that the state puts in place for you. One of the things that a lot of people ask is, well, you know, don't I have, or kids come in and they say, well, I'm entitled to inherit. You know what? No one is entitled to inherit from you. There is no one that has a right to inherit unless, number one, they're your spouse, or number two, they're your minor child. And there's specific rules that apply in that situation. But you can imagine a situation where maybe this single person has 3 kids and they want maybe just one of them to inherit. The other 2 don't have a right. Or maybe they want everything to go to charity. They, love this particular charity. Then they've got to put it in writing to go to that charity. Otherwise, the state's default plan is for the 3 kids to inherit equally. So really, it's up to you. Think about what your goals are, what you want to see happen, and then what's the best way to have them happen. Because if you take no action, well, the state does have a plan for you, because the state knows death is inevitable. It's really up to you to, take that action to put into place what is right for you.